Good morning. That was so sweet. The topic this morning is called Reaching Fulfillment. And all fulfillment begins with a desire. It begins with an idea in mind. And I'm sure you can think of a time in your life when you really desired to have some experience. Perhaps it was a loving relationship or a job or a car or maybe running a marathon. You really wanted to run a marathon. Well, desire is that spark of energy that sets the creative process in motion. And the creative process is really fairly simple. It begins with our thoughts, our desires, our intentions. Our desire becomes an intent. It settles in our subconscious mind, and the more we think about it and dwell upon it, the more energy is in subconscious mind. And as Troward said, subconscious mind is an attractive factor. So it attracts what we're focused on. It doesn't care if it's good or bad, it just attracts what we're focused on. And so we automatically draw like energy to us. It doesn't judge our desires like, why in the heck would you want that? Or why would you focus on evil? Or why would you focus on judgment? It just responds naturally. In the early 1900s, Judge Thomas Troward called it the attractive factor. And we call it the law of attraction. And it uses that energy to create something in our experience. And it can often be a surprise. I didn't expect it to show up like that. Now, I'm glad Joanna's here in the choir this morning because I like to share her story. Many years ago, she was a practitioner, and she would come to our practitioner meetings and say, my car, it's so falling apart. I really need a new car. This car is on its last legs. I need a new car. So the next practitioner meeting, she came in and she said, I was driving down the street and my car caught on fire. And I got out and stood and watched it burn up. And the insurance company got her a new car. I love that story. I just love it. It's one of my favorites. So we often describe this process as we have a seed in our mind, a desire, an intention. We put it in the soil of subconscious mind and we keep watering it with our thoughts. And then something comes into our life. It attracts like energy, something shows up in our life. So seed, soil, plant. Seed, soil, plant. Jesus said in Mark 11:24, whatsoever you desire when you pray, believe that you have received and you shall receive. So desire evolves into fulfillment. When we have a deep desire to do something, or get something done, like writing a book for me occasionally, or every couple of weeks doing a Sunday talk, I really focus intently on it, do a lot of research on it, a lot of writing, because I know that where my attention goes, energy flows, and somehow I find the right book on my shelf that helps make this all come together. In my late 20s, I had been working for a lumber company in Ohio for a few years, and I decided to get a college degree. Ohio State, by the way, Buckeyes, go Buckeyes, 57 points yesterday in their game against Michigan. 57-26, I think it was, wasn't it, Mary? She's not trying to remember that one. Anyway, I'm a great Buckeye fan. So I flipped through their course catalog and I found this program called Forest Industries Management. It's all about sawmill management, how to design and operate a sawmill and get the most effective product out of it. It also included forestry and logging. So it was just perfect for me, just perfect. So my intent was to graduate with a 3.0, and I graduated with a 3.1. Now, why didn't I aim higher? I just wonder about that. But then I had to take physics, and it was like, that's not going to be a 4.0. So after I graduated, my next desire was to get a job in the wood products industry on the West Coast, preferably Oregon or Washington. 1 week after graduation, I was flying to Portland, Oregon to take my new position with the Wood Products Company. You know, I look back on that and I think, how did that happen? But I remember in my teens, I found these really great books, The Power of Positive Thinking, Think and Grow Rich, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And I highlighted, underlined, read, you know, I engulfed those books, and I guess it really stuck. So fulfillment for me is like a staircase, because there's always another step. I desire to go to school. I desire a 3.0, pretty close. I desire this, and I desire that, and it's stepping up my evolution as a person. So when I came here, I'm stepping up my evolution as a spiritual being. So when I write a Sunday talk, my real intention is something here that I say might help you. So we've been using Roger Teal's book, Life is Joy. And he writes that the primary role of humans is to desire to move forward, to evolve. That's our primary desire, because we're drawing a higher vision out of ourselves. Desire is a catalyst. It inspires us to create an intention. But at the same time, he cautions us and he says, sometimes when we desire something, we remember too often that we don't have it. And that all shuts the door. We know in spiritual mind treatment, if you say, I don't have it, yeah, you don't have it. You're the creator of your experience. This is what is meant in Matthew, when Jesus declared, to the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. Now, I used to think that was a pretty rude quote. I thought that was pretty rude. But it's really about the creative process. If you know you have it, it shows up. And if you know you don't have it, it doesn't show up. But it also puts our whole life on shaky ground when we say we don't have something, because the creative process is pretty creative. All potential options are there. So we really have to create a have consciousness. And when we do, things flow easily, like hitting every green light when you drive downtown. Oh, you're in the flow there. You feel really good. And when you're focused on it not working, like Paul yesterday, bless his heart, this isn't working. Oh, then that's not working. Well, then this isn't working. So he had a very full day fixing things around the house. Because when you know there's not enough or it's not working, something's blocking the good, and sometimes it's you. Roger Teal writes, the desire and fulfillment are one. It's like the acorn and the oak tree. They're just different dimensions of the energy in that acorn. When we put a wedge between it, like it won't, it can't, it might not, we end up being needy or hoping or feeling a little helpless. So we're reminded again in Matthew 8:13, as thou hast believed, so shall it be done unto you. Now, I'm not a big Bible fan, but the Bible is one of the most famous books in the world. And there's a lot of these great quotes that call a higher truth to us. In the book of Isaiah, before they call, I answer. Job 13:22, call and I will answer. Luke 11:9, ask and it shall be given, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. So the key to fulfilling desires has been known for a long, long time. And one of the most important is feeling the mental equivalent of your desire. If your desire is to have a new car, you can already smell that new car smell. You already feel safer. You feel in control. You know you can drive lots of miles without anything falling apart. If your desire is a loving relationship and you can feel it and imagine it, you know when you got it. You know when you got it. So we teach that when you pray for fulfillment, pray with the feeling of it being fulfilled now, not praying for it to come to you. It has to be in the present moment. Mark 11:24, whatsoever you desire when you pray, believe that you have received and you shall receive. This is thousands of years ago, these things that we teach here. Some days I'm just really impressed. Well, this week brought a new focus into my life, and it's called AB 5. It's a law that the governor signed, will go into effect January 1, and it's about differentiating between who can be an independent contractor and who can be an employee. And it's going to impact us. It makes a number of changes to the labor code. The assemblywoman and her staff who wrote this legislation were after the gig community. You've probably heard that name, the Uber and the Lyft businesses in the Bay Area and the big cities, because here are these workers and they have their own car, their own expenses. They practically don't make minimum wage. They don't get any benefits of employment. And so this bill is going to resolve that, but it has a lot of implications for all of us. Because by the time everybody put their finger in the language of this bill, almost every business in the state will be impacted. The lobbyists who were paying attention championed their cause to the people writing the legislation, and so their clients were exempted, like doctors, nurses, hospitals, dentists, psychologists, and the list goes on. But there's a large list of people who were not in that list of exemptions, such as nonprofits. Nonprofits like this center were not exempt. And musicians are not exempt either. And it includes a 9-point checklist to see if you can be qualified as a contractor. Because we have musicians that come through here all the time. So when Home Office found out the implications of this bill for all the centers like ours in the state, they hired an attorney, an employment attorney, and she made a video, an hour-long video explaining the law. And if you want to see the video, I'll email it to you. I'm happy to do that. The attorney gives an example of how this will work. It's all about your core business, the core activities of your business. For example, our core activities are education, but our core activities are also music on Sunday morning, and also guest speakers. Next year we have 12 guest speakers planned, one each month. Here's an example. If you own a clothing store, a boutique, and you need to hire a seamstress, the work of a seamstress is connected to your core business. Now, if the seamstress is a volunteer and is happy to come and do her work for nothing, no problem. But if she expects to get paid or you expect to pay her, she has to go through this 9-point checklist. And I'll say, a seamstress isn't going to be doing all those 9 points, so you have to make them an employee, even if it's for one job, even if it's for one morning, one day. So, I've been losing sleep over this one, I'll tell you. Now, if the clothing store wants to hire a plumber, it's not their core business. They're a contractor, you hire the contractor and no problem. For musicians, let's say a singer goes into a recording studio to record a song and she pays her friend, a drummer, to come in and do some backup work with her. If the drummer can pass the 9-point test as an independent contractor, no problem. Most drummers, I don't think, could pass the 9-point check. So the singer has to hire the drummer as an employee, pay minimum wage, cover them by workers' comp, offer them sick leave, et cetera, whatever the employment laws are in the state of California. So in this video, the attorney recognizes that in centers like this, music is a core part of our service. And we treat the musicians as they come through, if from Mount Shasta or wherever they come through, and even our own local people, as contractors. We pay them a fee. I bet most of them won't pass this 9-point test and would have to become employees. Now, I'll tell you, the employee packet, when you're signing all those papers, it's almost like buying a house. This is a lot of paperwork and minimum wage and this and that. So I don't know what this is going to cost. We have all these guest speakers coming. They may be employed at their own church, but if we have to also hire them, it just kind of boggles the mind. So in preparing for this talk on reaching fulfillment, as a practitioner, we often say, treat and move your feet. We do a prayer for you. We say, accept it as so, your desire is fulfilled here and now, and then take some action. So this week, I took some action, and I joined the California Association of Nonprofits. And I had to write when I joined, why do you want to join this? And I just blabbered on and on about AB5. And the manager responded immediately and said, you know what, I'm going to put one of our board members in contact with you who's really worried about what this is doing to musicians. He already responded to me, and we're going to talk this week. So that was a good step in knowing we'll be able to get more information about this. Because the penalties for even one violation can be from $5,000 to $25,000. And even local attorneys can file a suit. It just boggles my mind. Then I called the lady who did the video for us, and I said, I have these 5 burning questions. Can you answer them? And she said, for a fee. And I said, of course. So I have hired her to answer these 5 questions, and she said she would do that. And I want to get those answers before the board has to vote on the 2020 budget. How much is this going to cost us? So I wanted to share this. Paul said, you're talking too much about that. And I go, I don't think so. Because my deepest desire on this is to get nonprofit religious organizations exempt. Because all small, medium churches use traveling musicians, traveling speakers. So I have to know in my mind, as I do right now, that it's already done. It's already done. I joined the association. I contacted a lawyer. I'm going to ask for your help on this. If you are at all interested in helping me write letters, I'd love your help. Because I think the more energy we put into it, positive energy, desire, intent, fulfillment, I think the better off we are. One of the challenges that often gets in the way of our desire and fulfillment is we can't really accept that it could be, this little center against AB5, could it really be? I have to know it's true because, for God, everything's unlimited potentiality. So it's accepted in my consciousness, and I invite you to accept it in yours, that this is true. I remember as a child, one of my desires was to learn to ride a bicycle. And then it was to graduate from school, and then get a job, find my soulmate, get married. Do you see the stair steps? All these stair steps and desires and fulfillments. And then at college, having to take chemistry and statistics. All I wanted was a C. I gave up an A and B on that. It was really tough, but I got a C, But it was tough. So here I am today developing new intentions, and I know the fulfillment of my intentions are already in the mind of God. As Diana said, we're wrapping up our 2020 intentional giving program, our pledge program that keeps the lights on and keeps this facility maintained and everything flowing beautifully. And if you haven't filled out a card, we sure would appreciate it. Because I'm not sure where we're going on this AB5. But one way to open up flow in your life is currency. Current. It's a flow. It's a flow. It's giving and receiving, giving and receiving. Money is God in action too. In Luke 6:38 it says, "Give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. As you give, so shall you receive." We call it the law of circulation. And in my mind, we all contribute generously to this center to keep it offering its unique gifts to the greater community. In Roger Teal's book, he ends this chapter with a really cute example about owning your fulfillment, owning what you want. Don't falter with your vision, he says. And so this is a letter that has been widely circulated. And it was written to a professor at Whitson University by a person named Chris Jensen. It's entitled Refusal of Rejection. And he writes, "Dear Professor Millington, thank you for your letter of March 16th. And after careful consideration, I regret to inform you that I am unable to accept your refusal to offer me the assistant professor job. This year, I have been particularly fortunate in receiving an unusually large number of rejection letters. With such a varied and promising field of candidates, it's impossible for me to accept all refusals. Despite your outstanding qualifications and previous experience in rejecting candidates, I find that your rejection does not meet my standards at this time. Therefore, I will assume the position of assistant professor in your department this August. I look forward to seeing you then." I thought that was so cute. Sometimes that's how we feel. We don't know what happened for Chris, but I bet the right job found him. So as we approach the new year, know with me that reaching your fulfillment begins with your desire. I know what mine are right now. And, I was talking to Paul about this, and his desire for the new year is replacing parts, like his knee and his hip and all this. As we get older, replacing parts becomes a big desire. So take the time to feel what it's like when that desire is fulfilled. He'll be able to walk his usual 2 miles a day, 7 days a week. So he really wants that to happen. So when your desire is fulfilled, what energy is welling up in you? And you can feel it, and it makes you smile, and it makes you feel good. But remember, the next thing that will happen is there'll be another desire, because that is what evolves humanity. That's how God created it. And so that is. Thank you, Judy. So let's do a prayer that you know clearly what your desire is. And if it might be to help me on my desire, so be it, let me know. But right now we know there's only one desire, and that is the one God created, that humanity can express itself and create more, endless creation. Because it was the Word of God that started all this, that started this creative process. And it works all the time. It's at work all the time. So I invite everyone to look at the new year with new eyes. What is it I truly desire? What can I make it my intention? A desire may be to have an ice cream sundae once a week, but an intention may be something totally different. And then we treat and move our feet. And we thank God for creating this process that it's so simple. And when we remember it, thanks to all those quotes in the Bible, we can relax. Life is good. We give thanks. And so it is. Thank you.